Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for Planning for the ERP of the Future, Optimizing Your Supply Chain with NetSuite and DSI. I'd like to go ahead and hand it over to Doug Borcherding from Meridian. Doug, please go ahead.
Morgan, thank you very much, and a hearty welcome to everybody that's joining our webinar today. We really appreciate you carving out time in your busy schedules to join us. I'm going to, as we move through, ask Morgan to advance the slides, and if you would, Morgan. Again, my name is Doug Borcherding. I'm Chief Revenue Officer for Meridian Business Services, and with me today is Dave Edeal, Vice President of North American Sales for DSI, and a hearty welcome and thank you to Brad Mueller from HealthSmart International, Briggs Incorporated. Brad is Chief Operating Officer and President, and will be our featured speaker today. The three of us will take you through an overview of why we feel NetSuite is the market leader for mid-market organizations and how we've leveraged both DSI's digital supply chain platform and NetSuite's market-leading capabilities to support organizations with complex supply chain operations. Brad will extend Dave and myself's overview with his firsthand experience of how Briggs migrated from a legacy ERP landscape, streamlining business processes on NetSuite, all the while leveraging the DSI landscape. Morgan, if you would. A little bit of background on Meridian, if you're not familiar with us. We're a professional services organization, two primary practices, one in financial services with a public accountancy for individual and commercial tax accounting, fractional CFO services, and a number of other capabilities you see there on the left. But today we're going to focus on our NetSuite solutions and services, highlighted by our full implementation capabilities, business process support, and training aspects of that practice as well. Given the supply chain side of our conversation today, we've worked closely with DSI in the area of inventory management, fulfillment, and warehouse optimization in and around the NetSuite capability and leveraging the DSI platform to extend NetSuite, as I mentioned. Morgan, please. Meridian has chosen the NetSuite platform to work exclusively in the ERP space since 2005. And a couple of the reasons why we have done this, Morgan, if you would, are highlighted by some of the accolades that NetSuite has received in the marketplace. Just about a year ago, IDC identified NetSuite as the leader in the cloud-enabled mid-market ERP space. They identified the fact that all ERP modules, all of the operational components within the ERP landscape across supply chain, accounting, CRM, et cetera, run on a single code base in a single database, single system of record for all operational areas of the landscape. This attribute of the NetSuite landscape is really credited to the fact that it was born in the cloud and purpose-built to be this single system of record. Morgan? Further, Gartner Group, in their latest Magic Quadrant for Cloud Financial Management, identified NetSuite as a leader in this space for organizations of any size, calling out the fact that NetSuite has more customers using cloud financials than any other solution across the entire quadrant. And identifying further that NetSuite continues to innovate and drive its R&D investments forward to deliver a complete business management suite, not only in financial management, but across all functional areas. Morgan? The value proposition presented by DSI and NetSuite together really is driven by the fact that Meridian and DSI have joined our NetSuite business process and solution delivery practices to offer an optimized solution for inventory and warehouse management. Our partnership combines the #1 cloud ERP, NetSuite, with DSI's digital supply chain platform that Dave will overview here in a moment. Morgan? And go ahead and build this all out, Morgan. There you go. So, it goes without saying, really, that technology can make small businesses agile and competitive. Again, Gartner Group calls the combination of cloud, data, social, and mobile the nexus of forces that make this possible. In particular, when we talk about supply chain optimization, cloud and mobile come together to give small business the chance to invest in powerful technology, driving an agility that's difficult for larger organizations to compete with or replicate. And these capabilities can be implemented quickly and at a fraction of the cost even of software landscapes 10 years ago. Morgan? But our experience has been that this has got to be done with a cohesive and broad-based landscape. Operational and supply chain data held in silos or separate systems limits business visibility and subjects you to manual processes or team members wasting time playing quote-unquote hunt for the spreadsheet amongst those manual processes. Management reports or data is error-prone due to duplication of order entry, for example, or simply is out of date because the systems can't catch up to one another. And it becomes virtually impossible to get a comprehensive view across all business units. Morgan? These challenges are really made manifest by the fractured nature of this graphic on the left of your screen, where multiple systems of records are held together by electronic spaghetti and costly integrations. But the shift in technology to cohesive systems like NetSuite, born in the cloud, where all operational data revolves literally around a single data source, has solved many of these challenges, eliminating broken transactions and order flows, solving for different versions of the truth, allowing users to work in a common user interface regardless of the operational area in which they find themselves. Morgan? Another way to look at this same benefit is a role-based view of information across the organization. No longer is accounting or operations or senior executives or the sales team trying to catch up to one another in terms of who did what to whom. There's a comprehensive customer, item, and order 360-degree view in real time across the entire organization. Morgan? What the next several slides will help you see, if you're not familiar with NetSuite, is how we enable role-based management by exception. So I'm operating in a single system of record, able to view order and customer data in real time, but what's surfaced to me is based on the role that I play within the organization, regardless of whether I'm a warehouse manager looking at orders to receive and drilling quickly down based on reminders that are surfaced on my dashboard, or sales operation leader needing to approve orders, or project manager drilling down on purchase orders pending my approval, or senior executive that's managing by exception and looking at bookings with less than an appropriate amount of gross profit based on setups within the system. Morgan, if you'd advance the slide. So how this looks in real life, and if you look to the upper right of each of these screenshots, go back, Morgan, if you wouldn't mind. You see a senior executive role identified here, and not only do I have the reminders I saw on the previous slide, but I have KPIs that are tied to financial records or alerts that I want to set up in the organization. Next slide. In this case, we're looking at a project manager, and the dashboard tiles that appear here help me quickly drill into milestones due on the third tile over there, or resources on staff, so I can quickly navigate to areas within the system that I need to monitor. The dashboard under the KPI meter there helps me keep track of my project billing forecast and my goals as appropriate for the role. Next. Here I see an inventory manager, and I have the same dashboard tiles, but it's surfacing different information, whether it's inventory adjustments or inventory transfers that need my attention, and my KPIs again in the center of the screen. The shortcuts view on the far left is a quick navigational area that helps me drill down to the areas in the system that I need to get to quickly. Next, please. And from a sales representative standpoint, again, I can see my KPI meter, my sales year to date, and the dashboard tiles, again, help me focus on things that are important to me, being open sales orders that need my attention, forecast, pipeline report, and reminders in terms of leads or tasks that need my action. Okay, Morgan, we'll get on to the roadmap here. Before I hand it over to Dave to talk about how DSI can extend a complex supply chain, it's important to understand the investment that NetSuite has made in the supply chain project roadmap. Over the last 7 or 8 years, a number of new capabilities have been brought forward into the landscape, and Meridian and DSI have collaborated on many of these, be it cycle counting, work in process tracking, advanced order management and fulfillment capabilities, bringing the power of mobility to the NetSuite landscape to really empower the end users at the point of transactional execution to eliminate duplicate order entry or eliminate human error in these business processes, truly exponentially advancing the power of the NetSuite landscape. And with that, I'll conclude my remarks and turn it over to Dave. Dave?
Yeah, thanks, Doug. Again, my name is Dave Edeal. I'm Vice President of Sales and also Channels and Alliances here at DSI. And do want to take some time to capitalize on Doug's comments about NetSuite and how it fits into your future ERP moving forward. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about how DSI fits into our cloud strategy and specifically how DSI and NetSuite, along with Meridian, all fit together in helping the supply chain story for you all. So DSI's product line strategy in the NetSuite space is really 3 different prongs here. Let's talk about each one of them. The first one is our direct for NetSuite apps. These are applications that actually get installed right into the NetSuite framework. They are native built with NetSuite development tools, and they help optimize supply chains in the area of inventory management, receiving, and we'll go into more detail of that here in just a little bit. But it is 100% cloud. It is folded into the NetSuite system, and it is available on NetSuite SuiteApp.com marketplace. This is a solution that can be implemented for our customers in just a week or 2. So it's out-of-the-box implementation and is available on the marketplace as a native solution. Secondly, moving from there, we also have another approach for customers that want to have applications configured and deployed out on our platform. This is our mobile application development platform, or sometimes even referred to as a digital supply chain platform. Some of you on this webinar may be familiar with that in some other ERPs that we support. It does rely on the world-class capabilities of NetSuite for the data, for the information regarding the inventory, but it does allow for leveraging our platform as a service in the cloud for applications revolving around inventory management, also for disconnected devices that may be needed out in the field that don't have coverage areas. Perfect use case for our platform. Also for route sales, direct store delivery, field service, field inventory capabilities, those are all excellent opportunities to use our integrated platform as well. Besides being on SuiteApp.com, which is a NetSuite branded application store where all of the partner solutions are listed, we also have DSI's App Store where we have applications that are available to be downloaded and be able to be used within this integrated platform environment as well. You'll see the badges there. The badges there that say Oracle NetSuite. Along with that, those are certifications that NetSuite offers, and you'll see that each one of those solutions we're talking about has that designation. And then finally, moving along the right-hand side is our cloud inventory solution. It is an application that's built on the platform. It does have system of record capability in that inventory records, locations, information that can reside inside the cloud inventory solution. What that allows us to do is to be a warehouse management solution for folks. We can do a complete inventory management for visibility beyond just the warehouse. So from receiving through manufacturing and kitting all the way out to a customer's environment. So supporting initiatives in the route sales, direct store delivery, channel management with, for example, consignment inventory, vendor managed inventory, and some of those customer engagement examples. So we'll talk a little bit more about cloud inventory. So along those same lines, across all the platforms, we also support our enterprise cloud printing platform, EPP, and also equally important is our insights and analytics that allows the visibility to some of those key metrics and KPIs that are important for inventory. Specifically on our native solution, DSI Direct for NetSuite, you'll see that it is a bundled solution. Some of the data collection and barcode printing, real-time, accurate data input into NetSuite are all there. You kind of see the different packages listed there with the work order, shipping, label printing, all included in that. This is a package solution that can be implemented in just a week or two for our customers. Besides our direct and native solutions, we also get into some of the features of our platform and specifically cloud inventory. DSI prides itself on our mobile-first applications, giving our users a very personalized experience based on their role. For folks that are in a high visibility and track and trace type of industry like life sciences, food and beverage, things that require serialization and e-pedigree data, visibility is a big part of that. So you can see that the mobile visibility and some of the things that Doug talked about as far as the big tenets of a cloud-based ERP of the future, we take those same approaches on our supply chain strategy. Our platform has integrations built in not only to NetSuite, but also other third-party products, third-party solutions that are supplementary to what it takes to be a fully integrated and solution that's part of a world-class organization. If you're moving inventory and moving things along the supply chain, there's need to transportation carrier integration and machine-to-machine, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence. So those integrations are important to that as well. Also integrated with our platform is our labeling solution, which allows for that accurate marking of products through the supply chain. And I cannot stress enough about the analytics as we collect information, as we help people move inventory and store and track that. Also important to know, what does my productivity look like? How is my process performing? Those are all things with inside of the analytics component that we do. So that's a little bit about our platform features, and you can kind of see the application piece of it on the right side. So we can help customers with our manufacturing, anybody with their manufacturing needs, with work in process, kitting, assembly. We talked about with cloud inventory, a perfect opportunity to visit about your warehouse operations, getting into things with receiving and put away and wave picking, being able to do replenishments and pick, pack, ship operations. For some customers, a big part of their inventory management and supply chain needs is all about consignment inventory, vendor managed inventory, being able to handle those remote inventory requirements through third-party logistics. Those are all very key in looking at that holistically. Since we do offer things on a mobile platform, it's important to know where your product is located at, not only just within the warehouse itself, but think about folks that are on their mobile devices in a retail environment, in a field inventory, and trying to locate certain products. With the the recent events in the Carolinas and being able to identify all inventory quickly and being able to set up rescue efforts and the types of equipment and food it takes to quickly get things activated. Those are all important things, and with inside a cloud inventory, we can set up those because of a cloud inventory solution. We can set those up quickly. So rounding that out, what that means is all these components together of our platform and cloud inventory allows for our connected customer to have visibility into that complete supply chain and be able to go through and do that. So that's a little overview of DSI's cloud solution, and specifically how it works in a NetSuite environment. And I'd like to introduce to you now Brad from Briggs Healthcare, Brad Mueller. I'll turn it over to you to tell your story on your move to NetSuite.
Great, thanks, Dave. I appreciate the introduction from both Doug and Dave. As Dave mentioned, Brad Mueller, I'm the COO and president of HealthSmart International. Been with the company for about 8 years. Was a member of the executive steering team as we selected and installed both NetSuite and DSI, several of the solutions that have already been highlighted here today, and was and am a continuing member of the operational team to continue to extract benefits out of these systems. Next slide, please, Morgan. And just by way of introduction, just not knowing everybody that's in the audience, my background is really supply chain. I actually started with the company as vice president of supply chain, so very focused operationally on many of the things that Dave just went through, but also, holistically understanding the need for an integrated commercial side, because one of the biggest pieces I think that we'll talk through here today is the lack of one version of the truth, a 360 view of your business that enables other departments to act like owners of the business, which I think is a big differentiator here for the systems that we'll talk through specifically to Briggs and HealthSmart. So on this particular slide, we've been around for a couple of years. Privately held company. We've got a couple of hundred employees. mostly domiciled in Waukegan, Illinois, and West Des Moines, Iowa, but we've got folks all over the country, as I'll show you in a couple of slides here. But Briggs Healthcare is really the culmination of two different companies, and this is important because this will illustrate how the systems really can conform to very different business cases under one roof. So if you've got multiple divisions, like Doug talked about earlier, you really don't have to worry about, well, my requirements are different than their requirements. I think these solutions can accommodate that sort of scenario. So on the left here, you've got Briggs Compliance, which is really started out as a medical forms manufacturer housed in West Des Moines, Iowa, really focused in the clinical best practices, workflow management within the long-term care space. So think of things like forms that check patients in to a care facility, nurse sheets that check the status of a patient. And so as you might imagine, very paper-based system, and it sounds like it is. It's antiquated, paper's going away, you've got things like electronic medical records. Well, Briggs makes sure that paper doesn't die. On the right-hand side there, you've got HealthSmart, which is the division that I run. It's the larger of the two divisions, and really this is a medical device products company, and we ship all over the world. Many of the scenarios that Dave just went over with things like consigned inventory, 3PLs, we do our own warehousing. We've got a very different supply chain that is Asia-based that I'll show you in another slide, but it's very different than the Briggs side. Briggs is a manufacturer. We're more of a contract manufacturer. Think of it more like a distributor operating model with some value-added production. We do some manufacturing as well, but we house our inventory in very different scenarios. Next slide, please. Here's a little bit of the groundwork of where Briggs is at. So you can kind of see there in the United States, or I should say North America, 4 different distribution points. We also distribute from the UK, and then we're actually establishing another 3PL in Southeast Asia. On the right side of the slide, you can get a sense of the supply chain, very simplified, but basically US-based manufacturing for Briggs and a lot of importing from China on the HealthSmart side, with some light manufacturing going on in Texas, and also our Briggs location does some other product lines for us as well. When we went with NetSuite several years ago, one of the things that was important as we moved off of our legacy JD Edwards on-premise solution was that it was going to be a cloud-based solution that could essentially cover off on all the requirements we had. So you can see we had a very extensive integration as well as selection of toolkits available from NetSuite and DSI. Next slide, please. Real quick, this is kind of the different needs that I talked about. The Briggs, we'll go through the Briggs side and then we'll go through the HealthSmart side. But here you can see Briggs is very manual process, if you will. Lots of customers who phone their orders in. A little bit of EDI, a lot of orders that are actually made for a particular customer, so nothing's happening until we get that order. We then grab the old printing plates and create their order. The rest of it, we have some basic forms where everybody buys the same stuff. It's very small line counts, very small order counts. Again, you could think of a lot of these things as picking pads of paper and putting it in a small box. Almost all of the Briggs outbound side is UPS, very little large shipments going on there. As you might imagine, in a made-to-order environment, there aren't very many returns. And they don't have any complicated consigned inventory needs. In fact, inventory, because it's a US-based supply chain, the inventory on hand is turned over very quickly. High turn environment, very basic pick, pack, and ship operation there. Next slide, please. On the HealthSmart side, because we operate across all different kinds of go-to-market channels, whether it's big box retail, whether it's what I call big box distributors, so think of major medical distributors. E-commerce, we're a very big player in the .com world and omni-channel world, and we do it all, whether it's ship to store, drop ship to an end customer, ship into someone's aggregated marketplace environment, Vendor Central for Amazon, FBA for Amazon. I mean, we do it all on an e-commerce capability front. We are very heavy EDI, so we had a lot of sophisticated automation. In fact, I say it's 60-40 EDI today, but you know, by the time this thing is all over, we'll probably be 85% EDI. So it was very important for us to select a solution that could handle that. We've got some things where we direct ship from China to an end customer. So although that's a very simplified handling, from a handling perspective, you still need to make sure those electronic transactions flow smoothly. We are a medical device company. Unlike the Briggs side, we are regulated by different organizations such as the FDA or, you know, the various medical entities, whether it's Health Canada or you know, the EU or Southeast Asia or Australia. We ship to all continents, so we have to conform to those regulatory patterns, which includes some of the things Dave mentioned, like serialization of product expiration, very strict and enforced requirements there that you are held accountable for. So we need to have full visibility of our inventory at all times. Number 3 on the slide, wave picking, very important. You can see the variety of orders, whether it's that end consumer order, 1 line, all the way up to a 500-line order, which might fill 3 or 4 truckloads. We have to be able to pick and route all of those things. As you might imagine, with those size orders and the variety there, we tend to oscillate from small parcel into various other forms of outbound transportation. We do have a return rate to consider. Anybody that's in the e-commerce environment needs to address that, and so we are beginning now with the aid of these solutions to look at things that weren't possible before, like reverse logistics solutions come to mind, where someone else actually handles that, but you've still got to keep a system of record, and you still need to have visibility to that stuff so that you can provide the end-to-end customer experience. And then, as I mentioned on the other slide, we also have a hybrid operating model where we control some of our own warehouses. So the WMS portion is still relevant for us, but we also have 3PLs to consider. So there are extra interfaces that are needed for that inventory, as well as being able to do the order management, as well as EDI confirmations and serialization. Next slide, please. So this is probably the most interesting slide. So as you think about on the left-hand side, this is the systems that we came from, and for the purposes of fitting it onto one slide, some of them were actually kind of combined into different boxes there. But you can get the sense of, I think, whether it was Doug or Dave that talked about disparate systems that contain one piece of the information and are only relevant to that individual area, and no one's got one view of the truth. And if one of those systems goes down, you lose your end-to-end integration. And so what you see there, many of those things are probably familiar with folks. But what the problem is that, number one, when you have a change to make in one of those systems, the things like regression testing and you know, user acceptance testing, they become very cumbersome. They become very time-consuming. It was a very resource-intense process whenever we wanted to upgrade or update our systems, whether it was a mandatory change that had to be made, or a process improvement that needed to be made, or something from a customer requirement that was needed. This was a difficult and archaic environment to operate. As I mentioned earlier, this was on-premise, so we had lots of server farms in both West Des Moines and Waukegan. And you can just start to think about things like disaster recovery was difficult. We had all kinds of interesting acronyms that I won't even bother to try to pronounce of things from the IT world that were costly to maintain, but also when there was a problem or something went bump in the night, and I'll give you an example of one. It got to the end of the J.D. Edwards world where we hadn't taken an upgrade or a CUME from the J.D. Edwards environment in probably 6 years. So we were 6 years worth of updates behind, and there was some mandatory changes. We couldn't even apply these sorts of changes into our system, because all the work that it would have taken to be able to accomplish that. Then you get into the resource requirements of, do you outsource this stuff or do you carry a staff? We had chosen for a long time to actually carry a very heavy programming staff that could do things in the J.D. Edwards environment. Some of those other software packages there that you see, those are very specific skill sets that are sometimes difficult to track down. And when you do track them down, they're very costly to entertain. So we were very much a fan of moving over to the right side of the slide, which will take me about 10 seconds to go through compared to the old environment. We were able to really maintain our quality processes there in the upper left, and both NetSuite and DSI, have a entire healthcare protocol of maintaining system validations, very good documentation, so we were able to utilize that ecosystem. But we were able to basically take the world of NetSuite and DSI, keep a couple of the automation pieces we liked in the warehouse. I'll talk about Carousel in a minute, and some of the internal manufacturing tracking that we needed, coupled with EDI, and really replicate what you see on the left there. And I'll talk about, we no longer have an IT staff. No programmers on staff, no onboard IT support or governance processes. All the things that were very cumbersome on the left are now basically managed for us on behalf of the partners. But when we do need to make changes, as we'll talk in a minute, both of these products are fairly flexible to accommodate process changes pretty rapidly. Next slide, please. So again, just throwing some numbers there, 65 systems down to 5. I have no server room at all in Waukegan anymore. The only thing we have is a file, not even a file server, I should say, it's a print server. We moved our file servers actually into the cloud as well as part of this initiative. The IT structure, back, just to put a number to it, we were spending about 5% of total sales on IT. As of now, we're spending less than 2% as a company, less than 2%. And really what remains of that is not really people-based, it's your various cloud providers. The uptime piece I'll hit on, although outages are never fun for everyone and nobody in the cloud is immune to an outage. They happen pretty few and far between. There's no more the hard disk drive failed or the server stack went down or my favorite, the UPS supply blew up in the middle of the night or the air conditioner in the server room. So we don't even need to think about that. The handful of times since we've gone live that there's been an issue, you're talking about minutes to hours as opposed to days or weeks. We were down after we moved a location, we couldn't get some of these pieces of equipment to spin back up, and we were down for 2 weeks a couple of years ago. So it's just a night and day when it comes to that support. So I think the answer to the question on why NetSuite is pretty easily answered by this slide. Next slide, please, Morgan. I think as you move into the DSI world, so interestingly enough, we had familiarity with DSI and our old J.D. Edwards solution. They understand the world of supply chain very well. For us, and I was one of the main people on the team that really appreciated the years of experience that the DSI team comes with in terms of the efficiencies that can be garnered inside your warehouse. And again, we're a fairly large operation, so there are a lot of efficiencies to gain because we have a lot of square footage of DC space. The bulk of warehouse people's time, if you're not fully automated with robots, is walking. So being able to do things like wave planning, being able to do active cycle counting programs, being able to know where everything is at in your 4 walls at all times, in a paperless environment is very important. Using that basis to move into the analytical section, one of the things that was very important to me was, and again, Dave mentioned this, productivity reporting. People tend to respond to signals, and one of the things I believe that both Doug and Dave did a nice job for you all was to demonstrate the usability or the friendliness of very simple to read informatics and business intelligence that you can action against. Too many times I think there's an overload of the data and not enough application of problem solving. What does the data mean? What can you do with it? And these were some of the things that we worked hand in hand with DSI to make sure that we were able to hit the ground running with. And I think when you couple that with the real-time visibility and the fact that you are integrated with NetSuite, I mean, it's a home run in terms of the overall efficiency that it delivers, especially when you look at it from a cost perspective. Next slide, please. I don't want to leave off the carousel, of course. We use the carousel, and I think the carousel is a nice call out in terms of an example of it's a standalone system that DSI was able to integrate into, where, you know, literally if you go out to the world to try to look for an integrator for the carousel unit that we had, which is now probably well over a decade old, you know, there was a struggle, really, to be honest, to find somebody who could build the solution. DSI was able to accommodate that very easily, as a great example of, even if you have these one-off systems that somehow need to remain after you go to these one-size or turnkey solutions, there is still that capability to work with you to integrate those unique features of your business. So again, kind of wrapping this up here, you can see the system footprint that we moved from. And we really called it the wheel of death, because at any given moment, any of those systems could have crashed and our business comes to a grinding halt. Many software applications were end of life, out of maintenance, out of support. No programmer existed any longer to be able to update in case requirements changed. And we really hedged our bets nicely by moving to these cloud-based solutions within the NetSuite and DSI environments that have made our support problems go away and allowed us to focus on our business problems and really the fun part of business, which is continuing to improve, reducing costs, growing sales, right, which is why we come to work every day. So you can really understand the right-hand side of the slide in terms of the benefits. I want to spend a minute on the benefits of tomorrow. The nice part about, although this webinar is really only covering a few of the examples of the ecosystem, there are so many other plugins available in this NetSuite environment, apps or partners as they might call them. And so you start to think about the world of possibilities of really giving your business that 360-degree view of everything that's coming in and going out, whether it's your phone technology, so you use your phones for a call center or business meetings, whether it's something as mundane as how you do your expense processing. There are just so many different partners that allow you to go after those operational improvements and drive costs per transactions to as low as they can be, so that you can truly have your employees focused on value-added pieces for your customers. That's really why we chose these. We were hoping if we could maintain parity in operations, plus with a lower IT footprint, we could really then look at the future of being scalable, adding on more requirements as we went, and bite off what you want as you want. That way you don't have to drink from the fire hose if you don't want to. And I think these solutions have helped us achieve that. It's a scalable, walk down the road of supply chain optimization that you can take and bite off what you can when you want. Next slide, please. So, and I think, I think this is someone else's slide, but I'll just wrap it up to say that, all in all, from a Briggs Healthcare perspective, I think we demonstrated that two different businesses with multiple requirements in a very complex, FDA-regulated operating environment, can and did move into the cloud in these solutions. We've been very pleased with where we're at in terms of our roadmap. And we continue to learn and gain new efficiencies every day. I think these solutions, coupled with the last kind of mention that I'll make, is at the end of our go-live, we did meet Meridian, and they were able to come in and really help us kind of put up those next items that we wanted to look at in terms of operating efficiencies, because nobody knows everything. There are a lot of partners out there, and I think Meridian did a good job teaching us kind of how to correctly optimize our go live, but then here's the next 10 things you want to be thinking about now that you've got the scalable solution at your hands. So I would, I obviously come with a very big recommendation here that these solutions can be scalable for small businesses all the way up well past companies that are large like ourselves. I'll turn it back over to Doug. Appreciate the time.
Brad, thank you so much. Appreciate the kind words and the examples that you brought forward. Morgan, if you would go back real quick, because what you bring forward are the why, if you're in the market and thinking about making the migration that Briggs has made, a cohesive integrated system is absolutely critical to your success. As the world continues to change, some of the the regulatory environment, the world we live in, both on the financial side and the NetSuite side, relative to changes in taxation of the web channel. Now, it demands a system of record like this to improve employee performance. You talked about a number of examples where you're monitoring individual and organizational improvement. The DSI landscape, or scanning, whether inside or outside the four walls, removes duplication or manual processes in order entry or data collection on the shop floor, and all of that saves time and money by surfacing the right data and truly allowing you to focus, as you said, Brad, on managing by exception, or focusing your time and energy on the activities that matter. When you can get that integrated environment across the various operational areas of your business, it does allow you to scale and focus on business process improvement, not just collecting the information that you need to drive the business forward. So, the last item, number 5 there, focus your company on the priorities that matter. And, each and every one of these came out in, your experiences, Brad, and we're very thankful that you took time to share those with us and those on the webinar here today. Morgan, if you would. And again, a big thank you to those of you that have joined. We'll post a recording of this on DSI and Meridian's websites. If you've got further questions or want to inquire on cloud inventory or the DSI systems, please feel free to reach out to Dave at the email, or DSI at the website or phone numbers identified here. Same with Meridian. Sales at meridianbusiness.com will get to myself or our sales team. Join us on the website, or call us directly at the number you see there. We look forward to seeing many of you on our upcoming webinar, Reaching Inventory Utopia, with a mutual partner of DSI and Meridian's, Velogix, who's brought a demand planning solution to market and is out there on the NetSuite Suite Apps site as well. That'll be on November 6th. And with that, we'll conclude the session today. I appreciate all of you that have joined, once again, for joining us, and please get in touch if you have further questions. With that, Morgan, I'll turn it over to you for us to adjourn.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone. We look forward to seeing you at future events. And again, if you have any questions, please do contact either Meridian or DSI. Thanks, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.